true.
If we run out of water, what will we do?
What the F? Does the Illuminati actually exist? What the FAQ?
Oh, hello Australia. Welcome. So, what the FAQ is this show? What the FAQ is a show all about questions. Any question you can think of at all. Questions like...
Are there any names you legally cannot call your children? Does feeling cold make you more likely to catch a cold?
Why is yawning contagious? And can I spread it like a virus to everyone?
We'll do whatever it takes to get you your answer, even if that means eating the world's hottest chili.
It's not that bad. Why is it in my ears? Fuck. Oh, why? Hey, Chaz.
Yeah.
How do you get a question on the show?
I'm surprised you don't know, Cameron, given you've worked here for the last 3 months. But as for you, you can ask anything you want right here. I mean it, by the way. You can literally ask anything. There are no stupid questions, just stupid people.
Wait, are you talking about me?
If you want to know the answer to that question, Cameron, you know where to send it. Right there.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
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 I think maybe we should roll one of those fun montages.
Yeah, let's do that. Come on! I'm flying!
Is that even a fucking letter?
Why did you lie to me?
Let's go shoot some guns.
Bullshit. Why don't you try?
Would you ever consider using Viagra?
Let's find out.
What the FAQ?
Does feeling cold make you more likely to catch a cold? Asks Naomi. Now, this is a widely held belief, thanks to one group of people in particular, mums.
Remember to take a jacket.
I will. But is it true? One thing we can say for sure is that viruses cause colds. To get a cold, you need to catch it from someone else, carrying a respiratory virus like the rhinovirus. You cannot get it just from being cold. But does the feeling of being cold make you more likely to get sick from any cold viruses you are exposed to? A number of studies have tested this out, but so far the results have been inconclusive.
How long do I have to stay in here?
Until you get results, damn it.
You forgot your jacket.
Could I please have the jacket?
This is surprising because we know that even though those cold viruses exist throughout the year, more people get sick with the cold in cooler months, at least in colder or temperate climates. So there is something about winter that leads to people getting sick from colds. One theory is that in winter, our behaviour changes. We spend more time indoors where there's less ventilation and it's harder to socially distance from airborne germs. Now let's see what a sneeze looks like with a high-speed camera so we can see what's going on and ruin socialising forever.
Yuck, this place is disgusting. People wearing shoes inside the house.
It's fine. But, yeah, let's go.
Hey.
No, Mum! There are also physiological reasons why you're more likely to get sick in cold weather. For starters, rhinovirus replicates better at cooler temperatures, which is why it tends to affect your nasal cavity more than your lungs. Plus, your nose can be even cooler in winter, helping those cold viruses replicate even more. Now, the nose has its own defence system, but a lab study last year found that some defences could also be reduced in effectiveness by almost a half when the nose is just 5 degrees colder. And another study in 2015 found that cooler temperatures affect the virus-fighting ability of a protein called interferons, which help kickstart the immune response. And yes, interferons is a real scientific term and not just a stupid word I made up, but I understand why you'd make that assumption.
Just take the jacket.
I'd rather die! Doctor, I'm dying.
I don't think so. You're going to live.
Should I have worn a jacket?
No, that's all about the myth of staying warm when you've got a cold. The cold weather affects your nose and its ability to stave off the virus, and the cold weather also affects the virus itself.
So what I really need is a jacket for my nose.
I actually think a mask might be better. You know, stops you spreading droplets to other people and it protects you as well.
There you go, at it with the masks again. But still... Mum, no jacket.
I'm not trying to give you your jacket. I'm trying to meet Norman Swan.
So, while there's evidence cold weather does increase your chances of catching a cold, wearing a jacket probably isn't going to stop you from getting sick. But you might want to wear a jacket anyway if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to feel cold. Unless, of course, you're trying to prove a point. Mum. Thanks, Mum.
WTFAQ.
Ah, the eternal question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, it's the egg. You see, chickens evolved from this thing called the red jungle fowl about 60,000 years ago. There was one red jungle fowl and it met another red jungle fowl and they fell in love and they laid an egg and that egg hatched into some kind of proto-chicken type thing. So the egg came before the chicken. In fact, the egg came a long time before the chicken because dinosaurs were laying hard-shelled chicken-style eggs about 195 million years ago, so it's not even close. The egg came before the chicken.
Should you keep the tomato sauce in the fridge? Well, Mehmet, thank you very much for the question. That's brought our office the closest to physical violence so far. Look, you're not the first to ask. The media constantly claims they've settled the debate, but we're gonna do this properly. No polls, no opinions, just a simple experiment to see how much bacteria and mold your sauce in the pantry actually carries. We started with 3 fresh, unopened bottles of sauce.
Yum.
And used each of them exactly once a week for a month. Cam stored his in the fridge.
Well, I'm a bit of a germaphobe, but it just feels like common sense.
Alex put hers in the pantry, but always wipes off the nozzle first.
I don't like my sauce cold, but I also don't like my sauce crusty. Ugh.
And Lou also put theirs in the pantry, but doesn't bother wiping the nozzle.
Ugh. I don't give a shit. We're all life forms, all good in the hood.
Then we waited. And after that month, Associate Professor Nick Coleman took a sample from each sauce bottle to culture any microbes present, as well as a sample from our floor. And now the moment of truth. Firstly, this is what floor bacteria looks like. Nasty. And now for your sauces. Cam, you kept your sauce refrigerated, and your bacterial load looks like this. Just a few tiny microbes.
It's not that bad. It's pretty good.
Alex, you wiped down your nozzle with kitchen paper and kept it in the cupboard, and your bacterial load looks like this.
Ew!
There is definitely something growing there. And finally, Lou. You kept your sauce in the cupboard and you didn't wipe it down, you filthy grot. Feeling nervous?
Yes.
Well, your bacterial culture looks like this. What?
Wait, is that clean?
That's clean.
That's clean. Huh? That's a win for me. That's such a win.
But I wiped.
What the FAQ?
So I think one thing that's going on here is that the sauce has pretty strong natural defences against microbes. The sauce has salt and sugar and vinegar in it, and all of those are pretty good antimicrobial agents, and they'll suppress the growth of microbes.
Why has Alex's clean nozzle sauce come out with a worse result than Lou's crusty one?
Yeah, it does seem paradoxical, doesn't it? So I think what's happened is there were a handful of microbes on the paper towel that she used to wipe it down, and so the germ transfer has gone the other way from the paper towel onto the bottle.
So if Alex doesn't want to have a crusty nozzle, how can she wipe it down without creating life form?
Yeah, so I think the paper towel is a perfectly good approach, and the fact that a couple of germs transferred from the paper towel onto the sauce is not a cause for concern. Another perfectly good approach would be to wipe down the sauce bottle with like a kitchen sponge, a nice clean sponge that's been rinsed in hot water and detergent. That'd also be good.
So finally, I have to ask, Nick, how do you store your sauce?
Yeah, it's a very personal question, Lawrence, that I admit I'm a fridge man, so I store the sauce in the fridge. But after looking at these results now, so it seems that the pantry is also okay. So I think we have to follow the science and say that either option is acceptable.
So in conclusion, it doesn't matter where you keep your sauce. Just don't wipe it down with Alex's dirty rag. Of course, none of this is relevant to me because I prefer Vegemite.
WTFAQ.
Is it really dangerous to use your phone on the plane? That's a great question, Larry, and I think I can answer it very simply. You see, in 2011, actor Alec Baldwin was removed from a plane because he refused to stop playing Words with Friends on his phone. Now, does anyone seriously think that Alec Baldwin would play fast and loose with safety guidelines when other people's lives... Really? Maybe we need to look at this a little deeper then. So the good news is this. There have been close to 1 billion global flights since the first commercial mobile phone was sold in 1983. Now, admittedly, in those early days, you would have struggled to get one of these on the plane under the baggage allowance. Nevertheless, over the last 50 years, all across the world, there have been exactly 0 plane crashes proven to be caused by people using mobile phones. Now, I know what you're thinking.
What about the near misses? As if some failed comedy writer would know every security issue across the world. Sorry.
Hurtful! It is hard to find the stats for every single international incident ever. Thankfully, I have this actor here who can read you a line written by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau.
No ATSB investigation to date has identified interference from a mobile phone as a contributing factor to an aviation safety occurrence.
Oh, bravo! So, for any phone-related plane incidents in Australia ever, that's 0.
Well, of course there aren't phone incidents on planes. We all turn our phones off, you doofus.
Unnecessary. And also inaccurate. A 2017 American survey found that about 40% of passengers reported leaving their mobile phones on while flying. And Australia's Civil Aviation Safety Authority explicitly assumes that
almost 1/3 of passengers will accidentally leave their devices on during the flight.
Powerful. So people absolutely do leave their phones on in planes, and yet there are still no incidents. Happy now?
Yes? No.
Given all that, it seems that we have all these rules about phone use on planes, and you might ask...
Why all the carry-on?
Excuse me.
So we asked an aviation safety expert what the concerns about phones were originally based upon.
Everything that we use, even today, they emit an electromagnetic signal. These were interfering with the aircraft systems. On several aircraft, the autopilot turned off all by itself. And the screens on the aircraft would go blank and then come back on again.
But early on, these reports were only anecdotal. They could not be replicated in the lab. In fact, the first mobile phone air restrictions weren't about safety at all. They were requested by the US Communications Agency to take congestion pressure off their ground phone network. Still, concerns grew.
There was one particular piece of equipment called the radio altimeter, which measures how high the aircraft is from the ground, that was causing major concern. It would say 20,000 feet, 5,000 feet, 5 feet, 20,000, 15,000. It was jumping up and down.
Would you say knowing where the ground is important in air travel?
Well, absolutely it is. You have to remember, takeoffs are optional, landings are mandatory.
Things became more serious when NASA began releasing reports into these occurrences.
They identified several anomalies, and they realized that the anomalies were being created in the back of the airplane.
Anomalies sounds kind of dangerous to me.
Oh, not necessarily. Anomalies are irregularities or abnormalities in instruments that don't necessarily affect the safety of the plane.
You play Americans as well.
Yeah.
You're so versatile. It's
Thanks,
really
Zach.
great.
Chaz, the issue 20 years ago is no longer with us. They shielded all of the critical instrumentation to protect it from this electromagnetic interference from the back end of the airplane.
Doug says that 5G phones do provide new challenges because the frequencies they use are sometimes very close to plain instrument frequency. But on the other hand, some countries have already allowed the full use of 5G phones on planes without incident.
In Europe, no incidents have been recorded where the aircraft has been mishandled or needed to do something different because of the 5G network.
Doug says that despite this, he still turns his phone onto flight mode when asked, and you should too.
I've been in this industry for over 40 years, and things do happen on airplanes, and I know that things have caused interference on airplanes, but that's not the only issue that this is going to create. The most critical factor that I want to point out...
All devices now need to be switched to flight mode.
Actually, there are some examples where phones have definitely caused disasters, but not because of interference and not because of passengers.
This is your pilot speaking.
Those guys. We couldn't get a pilot to talk to us on the record, but this is what they told us unofficially.
We pilots all carry mobile devices in the cockpit. In fact, there are certain situations where we are encouraged to use them to contact air traffic control or maintenance teams.
And pilots haven't always used their phones wisely.
In 2010, a Jetstar flight had to abort a landing after the pilot forgot to turn off their phone and was so distracted by the sound of notifications they forgot to lower the landing gear. And the fatal 2003 crash of a charter flight to New Zealand has been blamed on the pilot making a phone call home minutes before landing. Oh, gotta go.
Hey, is this just one of those anomalies? We're all gonna die! God! Bottom line, though, the Australian Civil Aviation Safety Authority, that is the authority on aviation safety, are so unworried about the use of phones on planes that they've explicitly chosen to not prohibit the use of phones on planes, and they've allowed the airlines to decide their own policies, which you then have to follow. So all of this does underline, and if you're watching this on a plane and you're not the pilot, and I really hope you're not, the statistics say it is very, very, very unlikely that you leaving your phone on is gonna cause the plane to...
Does eating celery burn more calories than you gain from eating it? This is a commonly held belief, and as far as we can tell, it's absolutely not true. Researchers from Oxford Brookes University tested this in 2012. They figured out the precise amount of energy expended by measuring the carbon dioxide their test subjects exhaled. And then they compared those results before and after they ate 100 grams of celery. The results? Consuming 100 grams of celery costs 14 calories on average, and 100 grams of celery yielded 16 calories, so that's a positive energy yield of 2 calories per 100 grams. Yes! It's not much, but it's something. It's 2.
What's the FAQ?
Reema's question is, can I lift up a car to save my baby? Oh, hope this isn't urgent. Regardless, I'm the perfect person to tackle this because the idea of superhuman strength fascinates me every time I drop my tablet onto my stupid, fragile face.
Oh!
Superhuman strength in times of crisis is called hysterical strength. There are many, many examples of people lifting cars to rescue others. So we can confirm 2 things. It's not an urban myth, and American cars have turned on their people. So how can weaklings like me and you, no offense, lift up cars like Mr. Mighty on the cover of my precious Mr. Mighty Comics #1 from July 1939? Hey, Kirsten.
Yes, super nerd? Oh, what's that? Can I have a look?
No, can I borrow your baby?
No!
I've done the maths on hysterical strength, and all we need for this experiment is extra strength, some danger, a car, and a baby. When's it due?
What was that? Oh. Baby says, no way.
No baby, no cry. In the meantime, let's take a look at strength. This guy knows a thing or two about lifting heavy things, like big blocks, big wheels, and whatever this thing is. Josh Pataka, better known as the Viking, just won the title of Australia's strongest man. Josh?
Oh, g'day, mate. How you going?
Oh, how can ordinary people like me, with no training, suddenly lift heavy things that they could not have lifted before?
So you've got your maximal strength, which is what you can consciously lift, and then you've got your absolute strength, which is your physiological limit. So you can only tap into that when there's a real emergency and your body goes into fight or flight mode and panics.
Oh, so my brain tells me to stop lifting things at a certain level?
So you don't tear your muscles or rip tendons off the bone.
I kind of don't want to do that. I'd love to test my maximal strength.
You're going to do a rep, and every time you do it successfully, I'm going to add 2 bricks in there.
So when I can't lift anymore, that's my maximal strength?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Oh, yeah, I got this.
All right.
Cool.
I'll add in some weight. All right.
More. Yep. getting heavier, but
Yeah, you look like you're shaking there a little bit, mate.
watch this. Oh, yeah, hang on. Yeah, I felt that.
Let's go, mate. It's got to leave the ground.
That's what lifting is, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, got it.
Just. Now we'll go up again. Come on, mate. Let's go, mate. All right. I think that might be your limit.
All right, I think that's 39 kilograms.
Yes.
Was that impressive?
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. Good job.
Thanks. So
that was your maximal strength. For normal fit people, that would be about 65% of their absolute strength. In strongman competitions, we can normally get up to about 80 to 85% of our absolute strength.
65%. So you're saying my absolute strength is about 60 kilograms?
Yes, that was good maths.
Thank you, I'm Asian. Is that enough to lift up a car?
No.
Time for some danger.
Here's the heavyweight from academia, the man who put atomic back into anatomical. He will peer review the hell out of you. It's Professor of Muscular Physiology, Gordon Lynn.
I have green tea with jasmine in the afternoon.
Why do cases of hysterical strength always seem to involve a situation of mortal danger?
It's what we call a fight or flight response. So that extreme situation, there's extreme fear and an immediate adrenaline release that allows the body's protective mechanisms to be overridden. The electrical signals will travel from the spinal cord to the muscles to lift that load and get the person out of the danger.
So is it possible to reproduce hysterical strength in a laboratory situation?
How do we have a laboratory situation where we test a fight or flight response? It's almost unethical to do so because of the way in which we need to get into that zone.
But in 1961, before scientists started worrying about ethics, two physiologists from Chicago measured the maximal strength of participants in an experiment. But in the middle of testing, someone snuck up behind them with a starter's pistol and they found that the terrified students were almost 10% stronger. For terrified me, it was an increase of 8.4 kilograms above my maximal strength. So, do you think I can lift it?
No.
No.
Oh, of course I can't lift it without your baby!
No, Lawrence. Get your own damn baby.
But I need danger. I need fear. I can't lift up a vehicle without the fear of losing something precious.
Can Lawrence save his precious baby?
Oh, I hope so, because when I was 14, finding that #1 issue was an absolute nightmare.
Shh. We're in the middle of science, sort of.
Lawrence's baby will be dragged towards this paper shredder from the moment I switch it on. The only thing that can block its journey to death is this falling sandbag currently suspended above its path. As you can see, it's attached to a rope that leads all the way back to the car with the end trapped underneath the tyre. It all comes down to this. If the car can be lifted up, the sandbag will drop, stopping the comic book from being shredded. Or in other words, can Lawrence lift a car to save his baby?
Oh, shit.
Loud vocalizing helps sustain maximal exertion.
What?
You need to shout, man. Shout!
Come on, man! It's so rare! Someone on eBay is trying to sell this for $15,000! $15,000! Adrenaline! I need more adrenaline! More fear! More fear! Clowns! Less fear! I think I peed my pants! I saved my baby! I saved my baby!
I think he saved your baby.
Well, I loosened it.
Well, that didn't prove anything, did it? Whatever, that'll do.
Yes! I saved the baby by lifting a car!
Oh, no thanks, pissy pants.
Yeah! Oh! Oh, clowns! Oh. So, can someone lift a car to save something precious? Well, not if that someone is me, not by myself. But with the help of fear and adrenaline, ordinary people have exceeded their normal strength limitations to hopefully lift a car just a few centimetres in order to help save a life. And that is super enough. Oh, can you go to eBay, please? Thanks, Josh.
Now, we ended our earlier segment about mobile phone restrictions on planes with a reference to those warnings against using mobile phones that you see at servos. But while researching that question, we learned that those servo warnings about mobile phones are actually...
Crock of shit?
No, thanks. But yeah, something like that. This was all started by a single hoax email that began circulating in 1999. Somehow, servos are still taking it seriously, even though there is literally zero evidence that mobile phones are a risk. Zero. I mean, this is the kind of thing that chief executives of the Service Station Association have been saying for years.
There have been no reports anywhere in the world of a mobile phone actually starting a fire or an explosion. But we'd say, be safe and don't use it.
Whereas I'd say, don't buy it. Allow me to demonstrate by being covered in mobile phones in a petrol station while performing a particularly hot dance.
Chill out, mate!
But not all advice to turn off mobile phones is bullshit. Specifically, those warnings about mobile phones you see in hospitals and around some medical devices should be taken very seriously. Mobile phone interference has been known to switch off ventilators and to mess with pacemakers. Now, this only happens over very short distances, a few inches at the most. But if you do have a pacemaker, do not keep your mobile phone in your chest pocket.
Mate, what's with all the phones?
It's okay. Mobile phones aren't actually dangerous in servos. They're just dangerous around hospitals and around pacemakers. It's fine.
I have a pacemaker. Oh, shit!
WTFAQ.